By the late 13th century, Anatolia was going through one of the most turbulent periods in its history. Mongol pressure from the east had shaken the Seljuk order, while central authority across Anatolia was steadily weakening. In the west, the Eastern Roman Empire was losing its former strength and struggling to defend its frontier fortresses. Between these two worlds, a young bey rose to lead a small Turkmen community living around Söğüt. He had no great armies under his command. He had no treasury, no palace, and no capital. Yet the movement he began would reach the Balkans within a few generations, and centuries later grow into an empire stretching across 3 continents. His name was Osman, but who was Osman Gazi? How did the leader of a small frontier community lay the foundations of a state that would carry his name? Our story begins around 1257 or 1258 in northwestern Anatolia. When Osman was born, the Anatolian Seljuk state still appeared to exist. But after the Battle of Kosadag in 1243, the Seljuks had fallen under the influence of the Mongol Ilkhanati. Across different parts of Anatolia, Turkmen beys were beginning to establish their own spheres of power. The regions along the frontier of the Eastern Roman Empire were known as the Marches, or frontier zones. Life on the frontier was never easy. On one side stood Eastern Roman fortresses. On the other were rival Turkmen groups. Communities that depended on livestock moved between winter settlements and summer pastures, competing for land, trade routes, and mountain passes. Osman's father, Ertugrul Gazi, was the leader of one of these Turkmen communities living around Söğüt. Ottoman tradition states that the family belonged to the Kayi branch of the Oghuz Turks. However, because so few documents survive from this period, much of what is told about the family's earlier history and its journey into Anatolia cannot be verified with certainty. What we do know is this: Osman was born into a Turkmen family living on the frontier of the Eastern Roman Empire, and he grew up in a land where peace could turn into war at any moment. There are no contemporary sources that provide direct information about Osman's childhood or youth. Later, Ottoman chronicles describe him as a brave, generous, determined Alp, a frontier warrior who knew how to gather people around him. But explaining his success only through his skill as a warrior would be incomplete. To survive on the frontier, knowing when to negotiate was just as important as knowing when to fight. During the summer, the Turkmen moved with their herds toward the highlands of Beylik. In winter, they returned to the area around Söğüt. During these journeys, they had to maintain relations with the Eastern Roman governors of the region, known as tekfurs. For a time, Osman's community maintained good relations with the tekfur of Bilecik. Around İnegöl, however, tensions grew over land and important routes. This was the world in which the young Osman grew up, a world where friendships were temporary, borders were uncertain, and power was constantly being tested. One of the most famous stories associated with Osman Gazi is the dream he is said to have seen while staying at the home of Sheikh Edebali. According to the traditional account, Osman had a dream one night in Edebali's house. A moon rose from Edebali's chest and entered Osman's chest. Then a great plane tree grew from Osman's body. Its branches spread across the world, and beneath its shade appeared rivers, cities, and fertile lands. Edebali is said to have interpreted the dream as a sign that a great state would emerge from Osman's descendants. As Ertugrul Gazi grew older, Osman's influence over the community began to increase. The exact date of Ertugrul's death is uncertain, although it is generally placed around 1281 or 1282. After his death, tradition suggests that Osman and his uncle Dündar emerged as the main candidates to lead the community. According to the sources, most of the community supported Osman, and Dündar initially accepted his leadership. This was more than a simple transfer of authority within a family. Osman was now responsible for decisions involving war, peace, migration, trade, and conquest. Yet what he inherited was not yet a state. It was a small frontier community living around Söğüt, gathering together in times of war. Osman's first challenge was to transform this community into a permanent regional power. Osman's earliest struggles were not fought against the great armies of the Eastern Roman Empire. They were fought against the local rulers of small frontier fortresses. Tensions around İnegöl continued to grow. In 1285, a raid against Karacahisar marked one of the beginnings of Osman's active period of conflict in the region. A year later, in 1286, a larger confrontation took place near Domanik. This battle is often regarded as Osman's first true military engagement. It also brought him a painful personal loss. His brother Söğüt, also known in some sources sources as Savshi Bey, was killed in the fighting, but the conflict did not end there. In 1288, Osman captured Karacahisar castle near Eskişehir. This was not merely a military fortress, it was a strategic center located close to the roads leading from Anatolia toward Nicaea and Constantinople. With the capture of Karacahisar, Osman gained control of a fortress, a permanent settlement, and a region where he could establish authority. The leader of a small tribal community had now become one of the frontier beys that the region could no longer ignore. Capturing a place was not enough. Order had to be established there. According to later Ottoman traditions, a market was founded in Karacahisar, a judge was appointed, and the Friday sermon was delivered. Later sources present the claim that the sermon was read in Osman's name as a sign of independence. However, the details of this event remain disputed. It is uncertain whether Osman was already a completely independent ruler at this point, or whether he still formally operated within the Seljuk and Ilkhanid political order as a frontier bey. But the direction of events was clear. Osman was no longer merely a warrior leading raids. He was beginning to create systems of government in the lands he controlled. This was one of the qualities that distinguished him from many other frontier leaders. He was attempting to transform territory won through war into a permanent political order. In many textbooks, 1299 is presented as the founding date of the Ottoman state. This date represents the period when Seljuk authority in Anatolia had weakened considerably and Osman had begun moving toward Bilecik and the surrounding fortresses. But there is no surviving document from 1299 declaring the Ottoman state was founded today. The foundation of the state was not a formal announcement made on a single day. It was a transformation that took place over many years. In 1299, struggles around Bilecik, Karacahisar, and İnegöl opened the way for Osman. After the capture of Bilecik, the administrative center was moved into the region, while Yenişehir became a base for future campaigns. This decision revealed the scale of Osman's ambitions. He no longer intended merely to defend the area around Söğüt. Ahead of him lay Nicaea, Bursa, and the wealthy lands of the Eastern Roman Empire in northwestern Anatolia. Osman was transforming from a frontier bey fighting local tekfurs into a leader who directly threatened the Eastern Roman Empire. The most important turning point in Osman's rise came on July 27, 1302. As Osman's forces increased their pressure on Nicaea, the Eastern Roman Empire sent an army into the region. Osman met this army at Bapheus near Yalova, in the area known in Ottoman sources as Koyunhisar or Yalikova. This time, the enemy was not the small force of a local frontier tekfur. It was a regular army sent directly by the Eastern Roman Empire. The battle ended in Osman's victory, but the impact of this victory was far greater than the territory gained. Osman's name spread beyond the frontier. Warriors who wished to fight against the Eastern Romans, gain wealth, or find a new homeland began gathering around him. According to historian Halil İnegöl, July 27, 1302 may be regarded as the date when Osman became the founder of an independent and lasting dynasty. For this reason, when discussing the foundation of the Ottoman state, the year 1302 stands out alongside 1299 and perhaps even more strongly in terms of historical evidence. After Koyunhisar, Osman was no longer merely the bey of a small community. He had become a political and military power that the Eastern Roman Empire was forced to take seriously. After the victory at Koyunhisar, the tekfurs surrounding Bursa united against Osman. In 1303, Osman's forces defeated this alliance at the Battle of Dimbos. Following the victory, much of the Bursa plain was open to Turkmen settlement, but Bursa was protected by strong walls and could not easily be taken by direct assault. Instead, Osman chose to isolate the city from its surroundings. Observation and siege towers were constructed to control the roads leading into Bursa, and the city was placed under a long-term blockade. During the same period, pressure on Nicaea also continued. Gaiva, Makece, Lefke, and the strategic crossings of the Sakarya Valley became targets of Osman's forces. Osman's strategy was now clear. Rather than repeatedly sending soldiers against the walls of major cities, he captured the surrounding fortresses and roads, cutting the cities off from outside support. This patient siege strategy created the conditions that would later allow his son Orhan to capture Bursa. Very little is known about Osman Gazi's activities after 1305. Ottoman chronicles state that because of gout in his foot, he gradually transferred military and administrative responsibilities to his son Orhan. Osman did not send Orhan out alone. Experienced warriors such as Akşakoka, Konar Alp, and Kose Mihal accompanied him. In this way, Orhan was prepared not only as an heir but also as a leader capable of commanding campaigns. This decision was extremely important for the future of the Beylik. Many political political states collapsed into succession struggles after the death of their founder, Osman made the transition easier by gradually transferring authority to Orhan while he was still alive. The people around Osman were connected by more than family ties. Turkmen warriors, dervishes, members of the Ahi communities, and some former Eastern Roman local elements all found a place within this emerging political structure. Osman's ability to unite different groups around a common purpose was at least as important to the growth of his state as the battles he won. For many years, Osman Gazi's death was believed to have taken place in 1326. However, research into endowment records suggests that he most likely died in 1324. If his birth is placed around 1257, he would have been in his late 60s at the time of his death. When Osman died, Bursa had not yet been conquered. The city continued to resist under the blockade he had established. According to tradition, Osman pointed toward a domed structure he could see in Bursa and asked to be buried there once the city was conquered. Bursa was captured by Orhan Gazi in 1326, around 2 years after Osman's death. In accordance with his wish, Osman's remains were transferred to Bursa and buried on the site where his tomb now stands in Tofane. Osman never entered the gates of Bursa as its ruler, but he had created the siege system that made its conquest possible, cut off its roads, and personally prepared the leader who would complete the task. When Osman Gazi died, he did not leave behind a vast empire. His territory covered roughly the area between Eskişehir and the Bursa plain. Nicaea and Bursa were still in Eastern Roman hands. There was no established palace administration, no great treasury, and no army capable of crossing continents. But he left behind three things that were far more important: a political structure ready to grow, a prepared leader capable of taking power after him, and a powerful movement that united different communities around a common purpose. Osman's achievement cannot be measured only by the number of fortresses he captured during his lifetime. His greatest accomplishment was giving permanent direction to a small community living on the frontier. The Beylik he founded carried his name, yet at the beginning of this entire story there was no magnificent palace and no glorious capital. There was only Söğüt, a few hundred warriors, and a leader who knew where he wanted to go. His name was Osman. Osman Gazi laid the foundations, but the man who would transform this small Beylik into a true state was his son, Orhan Gazi, the conqueror of Bursa. In the next episode, we will explore how Orhan Gazi captured Bursa, established the first Ottoman institutions, and carried the Beylik to the gates of Rumelia. Subscribe to continue this journey through history, and tell us in the comments what you would most like to know about Osman Gazi.